The rich cowboy had learned long ago that money made noise even when it lay still. It rustled in the way people spoke to him, in the way they hurried or hesitated, in the way smiles stretched just a bit too wide. So when he decided to test the quiet maid who moved through his house like a shadow, he did not do it out of cruelty. He did it because silence had taught him more truths than sound ever had. Her name was Eliza. She had come to the ranch months earlier with a single worn suitcase and eyes that never lingered. She worked before dawn and after dusk, kept her head down, spoke only when spoken to, and thanked people as if gratitude were a debt she feared might grow too large. The other hands called her shy. The foreman called her efficient. The cowboy, Caleb, noticed things the others didn't. He noticed how she straightened crooked frames even when no one watched, how she folded blankets with a care that suggested memory, not instruction, how she left bowls of water in the shade for the dogs before the heat rose. None of it was in her job description. None of it earned her praise. And that was exactly why it caught his attention. Caleb had inherited the ranch young, too young to trust anyone, and had grown into a man who measured character the way he measured horses, not by how they performed in front of crowds, but by how they behaved when they thought no one was looking. He had seen too many people polish their goodness like a badge. Eliza wore none. One afternoon, when the sun pressed down on the house and the cicadas screamed like they were being paid by the hour, Caleb told the staff he was unwell. He complained of a headache, of exhaustion, of needing to lie down. He dismissed everyone early except Eliza, whose duties included tidying the main house. He took his boots off with a groan and lay back on the bed in the guest room, one arm flung across his eyes, his breathing slowed deliberately. He had learned to breathe like a man asleep during long nights on the trail when predators listened for weakness. He counted the seconds between breaths, made them uneven, let a faint snore slip once, then stilled it. The house quieted. The hallway floor creaked in its familiar way. Eliza's steps were soft, careful, as if she were apologizing to the wood for touching it. She entered the room with a basket of folded laundry and paused when she saw him. Caleb felt the air change, the way it did when someone else's attention joined his space. He kept still. She set the basket down quietly. For a moment she stood there, and Caleb wondered if she would leave. Then he felt it, the faint brush of something over his knuckles. Not a touch exactly, more like a hover that decided against contact. He could sense her hesitation like a held breath. She moved to the window and adjusted the curtains so the sun no longer fell across his face. She did it inch by inch, testing the light, careful not to let the rod scrape. The room cooled by a degree. She turned the fan so it would blow gently, not directly. Then she did something that froze him. She knelt by the bedside and took off his boots. Caleb had not expected that. It was not part of her work. The boots were expensive, well made, and heavy. She loosened the laces slowly, mindful of the sound, her fingers practiced but gentle. She slid them off and placed them side by side beneath the chair. Then she reached for the socks, paused, and stopped herself, as if crossing a line she had no right to cross. She pulled her hand back and clasped it in her lap. He felt a warmth spread through his chest that had nothing to do with the heat. She stood and left the room, returning a minute later with a glass of water. She set it on the nightstand and tucked a folded cloth beneath it so it wouldn't leave a ring. She hesitated again, then placed a small bottle of medicine beside the glass, the same medicine he kept in the kitchen for headaches. He had not asked. She had remembered. Caleb listened as she moved around the room, straightening, dusting, aligning. She hummed under her breath, a tune without words, low and careful. At one point she stopped humming, and he sensed her near again. He felt the faintest pressure as she adjusted the pillow under his head, lifting it just enough to ease his neck. The touch was brief and respectful, like the touch of someone who had learned that gentleness was safest when it was quick. He almost opened his eyes then. Almost. But he needed to know if this was performance or instinct. She left again and returned with a bowl and a cloth. Caleb's heart slowed, alert and wary. She dipped the cloth in water, wrung it out, and gently dabbed his forehead. The cloth was cool. She did not linger. She did not wipe his eyes or mouth. Just the forehead, just enough to ease a fever that did not exist. When she was done, she set the bowl down and stood there, hands folded, as if debating something with herself. "I know you're strong," she whispered, so softly he might have imagined it. "But strong people get tired too." The words hit him harder than any confession. She did not know he could hear. She did not know he was listening. She was not speaking for his approval. She was speaking because she needed to say it to someone who would never repeat it. She turned away quickly, embarrassed by her own courage, and went to the doorway. Before leaving, she reached into her pocket and placed something small on the nightstand. Caleb waited until the sound of her footsteps faded, then opened his eyes. It was a paper-wrapped lozenge, the kind sold cheaply at the general store. The kind someone bought when they counted coins before handing them over. He lay there for a long time, staring at the ceiling, the test forgotten. When he finally sat up, the room felt different, as if it had been altered by care rather than cleaned by duty. The days that followed were strange. Caleb watched Eliza more closely, not to catch her out, but to understand the pattern of her kindness. He saw her slip extra feed to the older horse whose teeth were worn. He saw her mend a tear in the cook's apron without being asked. He saw her leave a note by the phone reminding the foreman to call his daughter on her birthday. None of it came with expectation. None of it asked for notice. He also noticed the way she shrank when praised, how she deflected thanks with a nod and retreated. Kindness, for her, was not a currency. It was a habit. One evening, a storm rolled in hard and fast. The sky split with thunder, and the rain came down in sheets. Caleb had gone out to check the fences and returned soaked, cold, and shaking. He brushed off his hat at the door and was startled to see Eliza standing there with a towel. "You'll catch cold," she said, then flushed, as if she had spoken too boldly. He took the towel and dried his hair, watching her through the fringe. "You worry about everyone," he said, not unkindly. She shrugged. Someone should. He wanted to ask her why she believed that. He wanted to ask her where she had learned it. He wanted to ask her what she needed. But he had learned that questions could feel like demands, and he did not want to take from her what she gave freely. Later that night, unable to sleep, he found himself walking to the small room the staff used for breaks. The light was on. Inside, Eliza sat at the table with a box of old photographs spread out before her. She startled when she saw him, scrambling to gather them. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "I didn't mean to." "It's all right," he said. "I was just restless." She hesitated, then nodded. One photograph slid across the table, face up. Caleb saw a younger Eliza standing between two older women, all three smiling. The smiles were tired but real. "My mother and my aunt," Eliza said, following his gaze. "They raised me. They look kind," he said. "They were," she said. "They taught me that if you have two hands, you can help. Even if all you have is time." He nodded, the pieces settling into place. "And who helps you?" She laughed softly, surprised. "I manage." He believed her. He also believed she shouldn't have to manage alone. From that night on, Caleb changed the way he ran the ranch. Not in grand gestures, not with speeches. He raised wages quietly. He fixed the broken heater in the staff quarters before winter set in. He instituted days off without explanation. When anyone thanked him, he deflected, uncomfortable with the spotlight he had once worn like armor. Eliza noticed, of course. She always noticed. She brought him coffee without being asked. She left a book by his chair, its spine cracked from love. She spoke more, just a little, her sentences still careful but no longer fearful. One afternoon, months later, Caleb fell asleep in the same guest room, this time without pretending. He woke to find the curtains drawn, the fan angled just right, and a familiar glass of water on the nightstand. He smiled, not because of the comfort, but because of the trust it represented. When he saw Eliza later, he thanked her. Not with money, not with praise that would embarrass her, but with honesty. "I see you," he said simply. She looked at him for a long moment, searching for the trick, the hook. Finding none, she nodded. "That's enough," she said. And it was.